mail-order alien bride arrived to find the human already married, but the kids chose her instead. Jake Carter wiped the sweat from his brow as he finished repairing the atmospheric regulator on his homestead's roof. The twin sons of Proxima Colony beat down mercilessly on his broad shoulders, tanned from years of outdoor work. At 38, Jake's rugged features had only grown more defined with time. A strong jawline peppered with stubble, laugh lines around his eyes that spoke of both joy and hardship. Daddy, come see what we made." Jake smiled as his twin daughters, Livy and Misa, came running across the yard, their blue skins shimmering in the sunlight, white hair bouncing in matching pigtails. At 4 years old, they were bundles of energy that kept him and his wife constantly on their toes. "Just a minute, Starshines," he called down, securing the last panel. "Don't want us all suffocating in our sleep tonight." As he climbed down the ladder, he caught sight of his wife, Itaya, standing in the doorway of their modest prefab home. Her light blue skin contrasted beautifully with her practical gray-green jumpsuit, her silvery hair pulled back in a loose braid. Even after 5 years together, the sight of her still made his heart skip a beat. "The girls have been asking about their art project all morning," she said, her accent giving her words a melodic quality that had enchanted him from the first moment they'd met. Jake scooped up both girls, one in each arm, and planted kisses on their foreheads. "All right, let's see this masterpiece." The family moment was interrupted by the distinctive sound of an approaching shuttle. Jake frowned. They weren't expecting deliveries, and visitors were rare this far out on the colony's edge. "Were you expecting anyone?" Itaya asked, a note of concern in her voice. Jake shook his head, setting the girls down. "Stay with your mother," he instructed, reaching for the pulse rifle he kept mounted by the door. A necessity on the frontier. The shuttle touched down about 50 meters from the house, kicking up red dust that swirled in the hot air. The hatch opened with a hydraulic hiss, and a slender figure emerged. Jake's blood ran cold. He recognized the insignia on the side of the shuttle. Galactic Unions, the same interstellar matchmaking service he'd used years ago. The same service that had failed to deliver his first order, forcing him to place a second one out of loneliness and desperation. The figure approaching his home was unmistakably female, her form-fitting dark suit emphasizing her graceful figure and incredibly smooth turquoise skin. Her white hair fell loosely over her shoulders, and as she drew closer, Jake could see her large, expressive eyes, filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Holy shit," he muttered under his breath. "Jake Carter?" the woman called out, her voice carrying across the distance between them. "I am Nyala. I believe you are expecting me." Her expression shifted as she noticed Itaya and the children behind him. "Or perhaps you were." Jake lowered his rifle, his mind racing. "There's been a mistake," he began, but the words sounded hollow even to his own ears. Nyala approached, her movements fluid and graceful. Up close, her beauty was even more striking. High cheekbones, full lips, and those eyes that seemed to change color with the light. "The Galactic Union's transport was damaged," she explained, her voice cool. "I was in stasis for nearly 3 standard years. They said you had been informed?" Her gaze moved past him to Itaya and the children. Understanding dawned on her face, followed by a flash of anger. "I see you found a replacement." "It's not like that," Jake protested weakly, acutely aware of Itaya's presence behind him. "Jake?" Itaya's voice was tight with confusion. "What is happening?" Before Jake could answer, Livy and Misa broke free from their mother's grasp and ran toward Nyala, their small blue hands reaching out to her. To everyone's surprise, they were giggling and smiling, seemingly drawn to the newcomer. Nyala's expression softened as she looked down at the children. She knelt to their level, her anger momentarily forgotten. The twins touched her face with curious fingers, babbling excitedly. "They've never reacted this way to strangers," Itaya said, moving forward cautiously. Nyala looked up, meeting Jake's eyes with a mixture of hurt and resignation. "Looks like your kids have already made the choice for you," she said with a slight smirk, though the bitterness in her voice lingered. Jake stood frozen between the two women, the past and present colliding in a way he'd never imagined possible. The life he'd built with Itaya and their daughters suddenly felt precarious, balanced on the edge of a knife. "We should talk," he finally managed, gesturing toward the house. "All of us." As they walked toward the homestead, the twins still clinging to Nyala's hands, Jake couldn't help but wonder how his simple life had become so complicated in the span of a few minutes. He'd ordered a bride, waited, given up, found love elsewhere, and now his past decision had come back to haunt him, in the form of a woman who had every right to be furious with him. What he couldn't explain was why his daughter seemed so instantly attached to her, or why, despite the guilt churning in his stomach, a part of him couldn't help but wonder what might have been. The evening stretched awkwardly in Jake's modest living room. The twins had finally been put to bed after refusing to leave Nyala's side for hours. Now the three adults sat in a triangle of tension, steaming cups of Proxima herb tea untouched before them. "I deserve an explanation," Nyala said, breaking the silence. Her turquoise fingers traced the rim of her cup. 3 years in stasis, dreaming of starting a new life, only to find... She gestured vaguely at the domestic scene around her. Jake ran a hand through his dark hair. "I waited a year, Nyala. The company told me your transport was lost. They refunded my credits." He looked at Itaya, whose expression remained carefully neutral. "I was alone out here. When I placed a second order and Itaya arrived, I never imagined that I would actually show up." Nyala's voice was sharp, but her eyes betrayed a deeper hurt. Itaya leaned forward. "What I don't understand is the children's reaction to you. They've never behaved that way with anyone outside our family." Nyala's expression shifted, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her personal feelings. "What planet are you from, Itaya?" "Azuria, northern continent." Nyala's eyes widened. "I'm from Turquosia, the southern hemisphere." Jake looked between them, confusion evident. "Are those related?" "Sister planets," Nyala explained, her voice softer now. "Twin worlds orbiting the same sun. Our species diverged approximately 50,000 years ago when the continents separated." Itaya gasped. "The sundering. We learn about it as children." She studied Nyala with new interest. "Our people were once one." "That explains the children's reaction," Nyala said. "On a genetic level, they recognize me as family. Our DNA must be remarkably similar, despite the evolutionary divergence." Jake watched as the two women regarded each other with new understanding. The scientific revelation seemed to have diffused some of the tension, replacing it with a cautious curiosity. "Where will you go now?" Jake asked Nyala. She looked down. "I don't know. The company only provides one-way transport. All my savings went into this journey." Itaya and Jake exchanged glances. A silent communication passed between them, the kind that only develops between couples who truly know each other. "You could stay," Itaya offered, surprising both Jake and Nyala. "At least until you figure out your next steps. We have the guest room." "Why would you offer that?" Nyala asked, suspicious. Itia's light blue skin flushed slightly darker. "Because despite everything, we're connected. Our people, and now through the children." They sensed it immediately. Later that night, after Nyala had settled into the guest room, Jake found Itaya standing by their bedroom window, staring at the distant mountains silhouetted against Proxima's 3 moons. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Itaya leaned back against his chest. "Did you see how the girls responded to her?" "There's something powerful there, Jake. Something ancient and biological that transcends our conventional understanding." "I feel terrible about what happened," Jake admitted. "I never meant to hurt anyone." "I know," Itaya turned in his arms. "But I also saw how you looked at her." Jake stiffened. "Itaya, I would never..." She placed a finger on his lips. "Our people don't view relationships the way humans do. On Azuria, family units are often more flexible." Jake's eyebrows shot up. "What exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying that I'm not threatened by her presence. In fact," she hesitated, a flush deepening her blue complexion. "There's something about her that I find intriguing as well." Jake's mouth went dry. "Intriguing?" "It's biological partly. Our species connection. But it's also something more." Her eyes met his, vulnerable yet determined. "I've been reading your human history. Your species has experimented with different relationship structures too." "That's true," Jake admitted, his mind racing. "But I never expected..." "Just promise me we'll navigate this together," Itaya said. "Whatever happens." In the guest room, Nyala sat on the edge of the bed, conflicted. She'd come seeking a husband and found him already taken by a woman whose genetic makeup mirrored her own in ways she was only beginning to understand. The children's immediate acceptance had cracked her armor of resentment, revealing a longing for connection she'd tried to ignore during her long journey. She thought of Jake, strong, kind despite the awkward circumstances, and Itaya, whose generosity defied explanation. On Turquoisia, extended family units weren't uncommon, especially among those with shared bloodlines. But this situation was unprecedented. Nyala touched the wall, knowing that just beyond it, Jake and Itaya were having their own conversation about her presence. Despite everything, she felt a pull toward them both. A complex attraction she couldn't entirely explain away as biology or circumstance. "What am I doing here?" she whispered to herself, even as she acknowledged she wasn't ready to leave. Outside the 3 moons of Proxima Colony aligned in a rare celestial event, bathing the homestead in silver light that seemed to pulse with possibility. The next few days brought a tentative rhythm to the homestead. Nyala proved surprisingly adept with the twins, who continued to gravitate toward her as if she'd always been part of their lives. Jake observed with fascination how quickly they had adapted to her presence, how naturally they sought her out. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Jake found Nyala sitting on the porch steps, watching the sunset. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, 2 glasses of amber liquid in hand. She nodded, accepting the offered drink. "Your Earth whiskey. I've read about it. One of the few luxuries worth the import tax," Jake said, settling beside her. "The twins finally asleep?" "Itaya's reading them a story about the Great Sundering." Nyala took a sip and raised her eyebrows appreciatively. "It burns, pleasantly." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, the tension of the past days softening into something more comfortable. "I've been meaning to ask," Jake finally said. "On Turquoisia, what are the customs around relationships?" Nyala's lips curved into a slight smile. "Direct, aren't you?" "Is that a human trait or just you?" "Both, probably," Jake admitted with a self-deprecating grin. "We're not known for our subtlety across the galaxy." "It's refreshing," she said. "On my world, we might dance around such questions for months." She looked at him thoughtfully. "To answer you, we form bonds based on compatibility and genetic diversity. Some bonds are paired, others include multiple partners. The concept of jealousy exists, but it's considered immature." Jake nodded slowly. "On Earth, it varies by culture and era. Historically, many societies practice polygamy, though monogamy became dominant in recent centuries." He swirled his whiskey. "But out here on the frontier, old Earth conventions matter less. People adapt. And you? What do you believe?" Jake considered the question carefully. "I believe in connection, in finding people who make your life richer and fuller." He met her gaze directly. "I never expected to find that twice." The air between them seemed to thicken with unspoken possibility. "Jake?" Ataya's voice came from the doorway. "The girls are asking for you both." They turned to see her silhouetted against the warm light from inside. For a moment, Jake worried she might have overheard, but her expression was open, untroubled. Later that night, after the children were asleep, the 3 adults gathered in the kitchen. Itaya prepared a traditional Azurian tea ceremony, her movements graceful and deliberate. "This is how we welcome new family members," she explained, pouring steaming blue liquid into 3 shallow bowls. "The herbs promote openness and clarity." "Family members?" Nyala questioned, accepting the bowl. "Among my people, family extends beyond blood or marriage," Itaya said. "It includes those who share our hearth and heart." Jake watched the 2 women, struck by their similarities despite their different coloring. Both possessed an otherworldly grace that had first drawn him to Itaya and now pulled him toward Nyala as well. "On Earth," he offered, "we have a saying. Family isn't always blood. It means similar to what Itaya described. Those we choose can become as important as those we're born to." "Humans are surprisingly adaptable," Nyala observed, sipping her tea. "Most species cling to rigid social structures, but you evolve." "Necessity," Jake shrugged. "Earth's history forced us to adapt or die. When we reached the stars, we brought that flexibility with us. It's what makes humans such fascinating partners, Ataya said, her eyes meeting Jake's with warmth before shifting to Nyala. You see possibilities where others see only obstacles. The conversation flowed more easily with each passing hour. They shared stories of their worlds, Jake describing Earth's vast oceans and varied landscapes, Ataya recounting Azuria's floating cities, Nyala speaking of Turquosia's underground crystal caverns where her people had first evolved. As the night deepened, so did their connection. The tea loosened inhibitions, and laughter came more freely. Jake found himself entranced by the way Nyala's eyes shifted color with her emotions, from deep teal when serious to bright aquamarine when amused. Equally captivating was how Ataya's natural reserve melted as she and Nyala discovered shared childhood songs and traditions. When Nyala demonstrated a traditional Turquosian greeting, palms pressed together, then against the other person's heart, Jake felt a jolt of electricity as her fingers brushed his chest. Across the table, he noticed Ataya watching them with interest rather than jealousy. In my culture, Ataya said softly, we believe that when the three moons align, as they did last night, it opens pathways between hearts that were always meant to find each other. And what happens when those hearts connect? Nyala asked, her voice barely above a whisper. They recognize each other, Ataya replied, reaching out to take one of Jake's hands and one of Nyala's, like pieces of a puzzle finally coming together. Jake completed the circle, taking Nyala's free hand in his. The simple touch sent warmth spiraling through him. This wasn't just attraction, it was something deeper, something that felt strangely like coming home. I never expected this, Nyala admitted, her earlier bitterness nowhere to be found. I came here angry, feeling cheated by fate. And now, Jake asked, her turquoise fingers tightened around his and Ataya's. Now I wonder if fate knew exactly what it was doing. As if drawn by invisible threads, they moved closer together. The first kiss, Ataya and Nyala, was hesitant, exploratory. The second, Jake and Nyala, was more urgent, years of imagined possibilities finally realized. The third, Jake and Ataya, was familiar yet newly electric with shared discovery. What followed was a night of connection that transcended physical pleasure, a communion of three souls finding unexpected harmony under the triple moons of Proxima. Morning light filtered through the bedroom blinds, casting striped patterns across the tangled sheets. Jake awoke first, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar weight of two bodies nestled against him. The events of the previous night came rushing back, not as regret, but as a warm glow of contentment that surprised him with its intensity. Ataya stirred first, her silver hair tousled, eyes blinking away sleep. She smiled at Jake with a tenderness that reassured him immediately. "Good morning," she whispered, careful not to wake Nyala, who was still curled against his other side, her turquoise skin contrasting beautifully with the white sheets. "Any regrets?" Jake asked softly. Ataya traced a finger along his jawline. "None. This feels right, like finding a missing piece we didn't know was lost." Nyala's eyes fluttered open, instantly alert, in a way Jake had noticed was characteristic of her species. "You're talking about me," she observed, stretching languidly. "All good things," Jake assured her, marveling at how natural this felt. Waking up between two women from sister planets, both now inexplicably part of his life. "We should discuss practical matters," Ataya said, sitting up and wrapping a sheet around herself. "The children will be awake soon." "What do we tell them?" Nyala asked, suddenly looking uncertain. Jake considered this. "They already adore you. I don't think they need a complicated explanation, just that you're staying, if that's what you want." "Is it?" Ataya asked, turning to Nyala. "Last night was beautiful, but we understand if you need time to—" "I want to stay," Nyala interrupted, her voice firm despite the vulnerability in her eyes. "I've never felt belonging like this. Not on Turquosia, not during my journey here. It's as if—" She placed a hand on her abdomen, a gesture so subtle Jake almost missed it. Ataya noticed immediately. Her eyes widened. "Nyala, are you—" Nyala nodded, looking as shocked as they felt. "I suspected yesterday. Our species are highly fertile after long periods of stasis. The medical scanner in my shuttle confirmed it this morning before dawn." Jake's mind reeled. "But we only just—" Our reproductive biology differs from humans, Nyala explained. Conception can occur within hours under optimal conditions. And last night was certainly optimal, Itaya said with a small smile that belied the magnitude of the news. Jake ran a hand through his hair, processing this development. Another child. Their family, already unconventional, was growing in ways he could never have imagined when he'd first sent away for a companion to share his lonely frontier life. "Are you happy about this?" he asked Nyala carefully. "Surprisingly, yes," she admitted, "though I worry about the timing and how we'll manage." A chime from the communication console interrupted her, its urgent tone suggesting an official transmission. Jake reluctantly pulled himself from the bed and pulled on pants before answering. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a severe-looking alien with gray skin and bulbous eyes. The Galactic Union's corporate logo rotated beside his head. "Mr. Carter? I am Director Peril of Galactic Union's Legal Affairs Division. Our records indicate that bride placement number GU7729T has successfully located you." Jake's stomach tightened. "There was a mistake. Your company told me the transport was lost." "A regrettable miscommunication," Peril said without a hint of regret. "Nevertheless, our contract clearly states that successful placement requires full payment, regardless of timing complications." Atiyah and Nyala had moved beside Jake now, both hastily dressed, listening intently. "I already paid," Jake argued, "and I received a refund when you lost her in transit for 3 years." "The refund was provisional," Peril countered smoothly. "Clause 47B states that if the bride ultimately reaches her destination and remains there for more than 7 standard days, the contract is considered fulfilled." His bulbous eyes narrowed. "Ms. Nyala has been with you for 9 days now." Jake felt anger rising. "This is extortion." "This is business, Mr. Carter. The outstanding balance is 75,000 credits due immediately. Failure to pay will result in repossession of the bride." "Repossession?" Jake's voice dropped dangerously. "She's a person, not property." "Actually, under Galactic Commerce Code, until final payment is processed, all Galactic Union's brides remain company assets," Peril explained with clinical detachment. "Our retrieval team is already en route to Proxima Colony. You have 48 hours to transfer the funds, or we will exercise our legal right to reclaim Ms. Nyala." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the three of them staring at the empty space where Peril's image had been. "They can't do this," Jake said, turning to Nyala. "Can they?" The fear in her eyes told him everything. "The contract I signed, I didn't fully understand the terms. Many from my world use bride services to escape poverty. We're desperate, willing to sign anything." Itaya took both their hands. "We won't let them take you. Especially not now." 75,000 credits, Jake muttered. "That's more than this entire homestead is worth." "What about my shuttle?" Nyala suggested. "It's worth at least 30,000. "And I have savings," Itaya added. "About 15,000 from my work before the twins." Jake nodded, calculating quickly. "With everything we have, we're still short by at least 20,000. A small voice came from the doorway. "Mama? Papa? Why is everyone looking sad?" They turned to see Levy and Misa standing there, holding hands as they often did when sensing tension. Behind them, the morning suns cast long shadows across the floor, marking the beginning of a day that had suddenly become a countdown. Jake knelt down, opening his arms to the twins who immediately ran to him. "Everything's going to be fine," he promised, meeting Atai and Nyala's eyes over the children's heads. "No one is taking any part of our family away. Not ever." In that moment, as he held his daughters close, Jake felt a fierce, protective determination that was uniquely human, a refusal to accept defeat when those he loved were threatened. Somehow he would find a way to keep their newly formed family together, no matter what it took. "Colonial Law Section 42.7, Jake read aloud from the datapad, his voice gaining strength with each word. "Any non-human carrying offspring with human genetic material is automatically granted protected person status and cannot be subject to property claims, regardless of prior contractual obligations." He looked up at Ataya and Nyala, who sat across from him at the kitchen table while the twins played in the next room. The morning's panic had given way to focused determination, as Jake had spent hours searching through Earth colonial legal codes. "This could work," Ataya said, hope brightening her features. "Nyala's pregnancy would nullify their contract." Nyala placed a protective hand over her abdomen. "But we need proof. My shuttle's medical scanner isn't certified for legal documentation." Jake nodded grimly. "We need to reach the Colonial Medical Center in New Portland. It's the only facility with the authority to issue the certification that would stand up against galactic unions." "New Portland is 4 hours away by skimmer," Itaya pointed out. "With the twins, the mountain pass." "I'll go with Nyala," Jake decided. "You stay with the girls. We'll leave immediately and be back before nightfall." The plan formed quickly. Jake packed emergency supplies while Itaya prepared food for their journey. Nyala changed into more practical clothing borrowed from Itaya, loose-fitting pants and a tunic that concealed her distinctive form. As they prepared to leave, Jake pulled Itaya close. "If anything happens," she pressed her fingers to his lips, "nothing will happen. You'll get the certification and be back for dinner." Her confidence steadied him. Besides, humans are notoriously stubborn when protecting their families. "It's one of your most admirable qualities." Jake smiled, drawing strength from her faith in him. "It's not just human nature, it's personal." Nyala approached, having said goodbye to the twins. The girls had been told their new auntie needed to see a doctor, a simple explanation that satisfied their curiosity for now. "They asked if the baby would be blue like them," Nyala said with a soft smile. "I told them we wouldn't know until it arrives, The moment held a domestic tranquility that made their current crisis seem all the more intrusive. Jake felt a surge of protective anger. This corporation had no right to threaten what they were building here. The journey began smoothly enough. Jake's skimmer, a rugged vehicle designed for Proxima's challenging terrain, carried them swiftly across the red plains. Nyala sat beside him, her white hair secured in a practical braid, her eyes scanning the horizon with a vigilance born of her new vulnerability. "I never thanked you," she said after they'd been traveling for an hour. "For what?" "For not sending me away when I arrived. For opening your home, your heart." She turned to look at him, her eyes shifting to that mesmerizing aquamarine that indicated deep emotion. Most humans would have seen only complications. Jake kept his eyes on the rough path ahead, navigating around a particularly large boulder. Maybe that's the difference between Earth humans and colony humans. Out here, we learn to see opportunities where others see problems. "Is that why you ordered a bride from across the galaxy? Opportunity?" The question wasn't accusatory, merely curious. Jake considered it carefully. "Loneliness mostly," he admitted. "Frontier life is rewarding but isolating. I wanted connection." He glanced at her. "I never expected to find it twice over." "On my world, we have a saying, fate's path winds but never strays. Perhaps this was always where we were meant to arrive." They lapsed into comfortable silence as the skimmer began its ascent into the mountain pass that separated their homestead from New Portland. The terrain grew steeper, the path narrower. Jake focused intently on navigating the treacherous switchbacks. Halfway through the pass, the skimmer's engine made an ominous sputtering sound. "That doesn't sound good," Nyala observed. Jake checked the diagnostics panel. "Dust in the intake. Common problem in these mountains." He pulled over at a small plateau that offered just enough space for the vehicle. "I can fix it, but it'll take about 20 minutes. As Jake worked on the engine, Nyala stood at the edge of the plateau, gazing out at the spectacular view of Proxima Colony spread below them. The twin suns had reached their zenith, bathing everything in golden light. "It's beautiful," she said when Jake joined her, his hands now smeared with engine grease. "I understand why you chose this world." "It reminded me of Earth's frontier days," Jake admitted. "A place where people could remake themselves, free from old constraints." Nyala turned to him, suddenly serious. "If we succeed, if I get this protected status, what happens to us? To this connection we found?" Jake stepped closer, drawn by the vulnerability in her question. "We build on it, day by day. And Itaya, is she truly comfortable with this arrangement?" Ask her yourself, Jake suggested, gently tucking a stray strand of white hair behind her ear. But I've never known her to say anything she doesn't mean. Nyala leaned into his touch. Human directness is contagious. On Turquoisia, we would spend months in elaborate courtship rituals before even acknowledging attraction. And now, Jake asked, his voice dropping lower. Now I find myself thinking very human thoughts, she admitted, her eyes darkening to teal. Immediate, unfiltered. The moment between them crackled with tension, not the anxious tension of their current crisis, but the delicious tension of desire acknowledged and reciprocated. Jake cupped her face, marveling at the silken texture of her turquoise skin. We should get back on the road, he murmured, even as he leaned closer. We should, she agreed, making no move to step away. Their kiss was different from the previous nights. Less exploratory, more certain, a reaffirmation of their growing bond, a promise of what awaited them beyond this current threat. When they finally broke apart, Nyala's eyes had lightened to that brilliant aquamarine. Humans certainly don't waste time, she observed with a smile. Life's too short, Jake replied, returning to the skimmer with renewed determination, especially when someone's trying to shorten it further. The engine roared back to life, stronger than before. As they continued their journey toward New Portland and the certification that could secure their future, Jake felt a growing confidence. This wasn't just about outwitting a corporate contract. It was about defending the unconventional family they were creating. A family that defied expectations but felt more right with each passing day. Behind them, the dust of their passage hung in the air, golden in the sunlight, marking their path forward. The Colonial Medical Center of New Portland rose like a gleaming white monolith against the rusty landscape of Proxima. Jake parked the skimmer in the visitor's bay, his eyes scanning the area for any sign of Galactic Union's representatives. Seems clear, he murmured to Nyala. Keep your head down just in case. The reception area was mercifully quiet, only a few colonists waiting for appointments. Jake approached the desk, where a bored-looking human clerk tapped at a holographic display. We need to see a doctor for pregnancy certification, Jake explained. It's urgent. The clerk barely looked up. Take a number. Wait, time is approximately 3 hours. Jake leaned closer. It's a protected status case, he said quietly. Time sensitive. That got the clerk's attention. He glanced at Nyala, then back to Jake. I'll see if Dr. Duran is available. She handles special cases. 20 minutes later, they were ushered into a private examination room. Dr. Hannah Duran was not what Jake had expected. In her early 40s, she had the weathered look of someone who'd seen too much frontier medicine, but her eyes remained sharp and kind. Her dark hair was streaked with premature gray, pulled back in a practical ponytail. Protected status case? She asked without preamble, looking between them. Jake nodded. My, partner is carrying my child. We need official certification to invoke Section 42.7. Dr. Duran's expression softened slightly. Galactic Unions? Nyala looked up in surprise. How did you know? Let's just say you're not the first. Dr. Duran rolled up her sleeve, revealing a small scar on her forearm. Removal mark. All GU brides get tracking implants. Mine was deactivated years ago. You were a mail-order bride? Jake couldn't hide his shock. Not exactly. I married an alien diplomat who used GU as an intermediary. Her mouth twisted in a bitter smile. When he tired of me, he tried to return me for a refund. Apparently, human women are covered by the same contract terms. Nyala reached out instinctively, touching the doctor's arm. How did you escape? I didn't have to. My ex-husband was human enough to be shamed by colonial public opinion when I went to the media. He canceled the return order. Dr. Duran's eyes hardened. But most aren't so lucky. GU's practices are barely legal and completely unethical. She gestured for Nyla to lie on the examination table. Let's get you certified first, then we can talk options. The examination was thorough but quick. Dr. Duran used advanced scanning equipment that hummed softly as it passed over Nyala's abdomen. Congratulations, she said finally. You're definitely pregnant. About 4 days along, which is consistent with human Turquoisian conception rates. She tapped information into her medical tablet. I'm certifying this as a viable pregnancy with human genetic material. And this should trigger immediate protected status. Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Dr. Duran cautioned. GU will fight this. They'll claim the pregnancy was deliberately engineered to escape the contract. It wasn't, Nyala protested. I believe you, Dr. Duran assured her, but they'll demand genetic verification, which takes weeks. Time you don't have with their retrieval team already en route. Jake's relief evaporated. So we're back where we started. Not quite. Dr. Duran's expression turned calculating. I've been gathering evidence against GU for years. Testimonies from exploited brides, illegal contract clauses, medical records of removed tracking devices. She looked at Nyala. Your case could be the tipping point, especially with a human colonial authority backing you. What are you suggesting? Jake asked. A counterstrike. I have connections with the Colonial Justice Department. With your case and my evidence, we could file for an emergency injunction against GU's operations in this sector. Nyala looked uncertain. Would that stop the retrieval team? It would freeze all GU assets and operations pending investigation, including retrieval actions. Dr. Duran smiled grimly. Corporations hate public scrutiny almost as much as they hate losing money. Jake considered this. What do you need from us? Nyala's testimony, access to her original contract, and your willingness to become the public faces of this fight. She looked between them. It won't be easy. GU has powerful allies. But we'd have humanity on our side, Jake said, the pieces falling into place. Colonial settlers hate corporate overreach almost as much as they value family bonds. Exactly, Dr. Duran nodded approvingly. This isn't just about one family. It's about human autonomy on the frontier, about drawing lines that even interstellar corporations can't cross. Nyala took Jake's hand, her fingers cool against his skin. I want to do this, not just for us, but for others trapped in these contracts. Jake squeezed her hand, feeling a surge of pride. In just days, she had transformed from an angry stranger at his door to a woman willing to fight not only for her own freedom, but for others. It was a courage he admired deeply. We're in, he told Dr. Duran, but I need to contact Itaya first. This affects her too. The doctor nodded. Use my private comm terminal. It's secure. When Itaya's face appeared on the screen, Jake explained the situation. Her response was immediate and unwavering. Fight them, she said, her silver hair gleaming in the homestead's lighting. Show them what happens when they threaten a human family. It could get messy, Jake warned. Public, Itaya smiled, a fierce expression that reminded him why he'd fallen in love with her. Then let the public see what real family loyalty looks like, human and alien together against corporate greed. After the call ended, Jake turned back to find Nyala and Dr. Duran deep in conversation, comparing notes on GU's practices. The sight filled him with a strange pride. These remarkable women from different worlds united in purpose. We have until tomorrow morning, he said, joining them. The retrieval team lands at dawn. Dr. Duran nodded briskly. Then we work through the night. I'll contact my Justice Department connection. You two start preparing Nyala's testimony. She paused, her expression softening. And Jake, what you're building, this family of yours, it's worth fighting for. As the Proxima suns began their descent toward the horizon, casting long shadows across New Portland, Jake felt a renewed determination. This wasn't just about outwitting a corporate contract anymore. It was about standing up for the family they were creating, unconventional, unexpected, but more precious than anything he'd ever known. And if there was one thing humans on the frontier understood, it was that the things most worth having were worth fighting for. Dawn broke over New Portland with the characteristic double flare of Proxima's twin suns. Jake stood at the viewport of Dr. Duran's office, watching as a sleek corporate shuttle descended toward the colony's landing pad. Its polished hull bore the Galactic Union's insignia, a stylized representation of different species' hands clasped together that now struck Jake as deeply ironic. They're here, he announced to the room. Nyala and Dr. Duran looked up from the legal documents they'd been finalizing all night. Both women showed signs of exhaustion, but their eyes remained determined. Just in time, Dr. Duran said, tapping a final command on her tablet. The emergency injunction request has been submitted. Judge Hernandez promised to review it immediately. Jake's comm unit chimed, yet Aya calling from home. When he answered, her face appeared, the twins visible behind her, playing with building blocks. Any news? She asked, her voice steady despite the worry evident in her eyes. The retrieval team just landed. We're waiting on the injunction. Jake tried to sound more confident than he felt. How are things there? Quiet, the girls keep asking when you're coming home. Ataya's expression softened. They've made something for Nyala. Nyala moved into view of the comm, her face lighting up at the mention of the twins. Tell them I can't wait to see it. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Duran's assistant entering the office. There's someone here to see you, says she's from Galactic Union's executive division. Jake exchanged glances with Nyala and Dr. Duran. This wasn't the retrieval team they'd expected. This was someone higher up the corporate ladder. Send her in, Dr. Duran decided. Jake, keep the comm open. Ataya should hear this too. The woman who entered moved with the fluid grace of someone accustomed to power. Her species was unfamiliar to Jake. Humanoid but with iridescent skin that shifted colors subtly as she moved, and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. Mr. Carter, she acknowledged with a slight nod. I am Director Velataris, Chief Negotiator for Galactic Unions. Her voice was melodious but cold. I understand there's been a misunderstanding regarding one of our placements. There's no misunderstanding, Jake replied firmly. Your company tried to repossess a person who's carrying my child. Taris smiled thinly. A convenient development, wouldn't you say? Our medical experts suggest the timing is suspiciously fortuitous. I've certified the pregnancy, Dr. Duran interjected. Colonial Medical Authority supersedes your corporate medical opinion. Yes, Dr. Duran, we're familiar with your crusade against our organization. Taris's skin rippled with patterns that suggested annoyance, which is why I've come to offer a solution beneficial to all parties. She placed a small holographic projector on the desk. With a wave of her hand, a contract materialized in the air between them. Galactic Unions is prepared to offer you a settlement of 500,000 credits, enough to secure your family's future for generations. In exchange, you will drop this injunction request and sign a standard non-disclosure agreement. Her galaxy eyes fixed on Jake. A generous offer considering the circumstances. Jake felt a momentary temptation. That amount would transform their lives. A larger homestead, the best education for the children, security against Proxima's unpredictable frontier challenges. From the comm unit, Ataya's voice cut through his thoughts. Jake, remember who you are. Those simple words centered him. Jake Carter was many things, a colonist, a father, a lover. But above all, he was human, and humans on the frontier stood for something. Not interested, he said flatly. Taris's skin darkened. Perhaps you misunderstand. This offer expires when I leave this room. The alternative is years of costly litigation, during which Ms. Nyala's status will remain uncertain. The alternative, came a new voice from the doorway, is immediate compliance with Colonial Justice Department orders. They turned to see a stern-faced human woman in the formal uniform of a colonial marshal. She held up a digital badge. Marshal Liam Shelton, I have here an emergency injunction signed by Judge Hernandez freezing all Galactic Union's assets in operations in this sector, including retrieval actions. She handed a data chip to the stunned Taris. Your retrieval team has already been instructed to return to their shuttle. They are not to approach the Carter family or their property. Taris's skin pulsed with angry red patterns. This is outrageous. The Colonial Authority has no jurisdiction over interstellar commerce. It has every jurisdiction over human citizens and their families, Marshal Shelton interrupted. The injunction cites 17 violations of colonial human rights statutes, including illegal tracking implantation, coercive contract terms, and attempted separation of a legally established family unit. Dr. Duran stepped forward, unable to hide her satisfaction. The evidence I've been collecting for years has finally found the right audience, Director Taris. Terrace looked between them, calculating. This isn't over. Our legal division will... Will what? Jake challenged, finding his voice. Admit in open court that you treat sentient beings as property? Explain why you implant tracking devices without informed consent? Defend contracts that no ethical society would enforce? For the first time, Terrace seemed uncertain. Her skin settled into a muted gray. The colonial authority doesn't understand the complexities of interspecies matchmaking. No, Jake agreed, but we understand family, and we protect our own. 6 months later, Jake stood on the porch of their expanded homestead, watching as Livy and Misa chased each other through the garden Ataya had planted. The legal battle with galactic unions had ended not with a protracted court fight, but with a comprehensive settlement. The corporation agreeing to major reforms of its practices throughout human colonies in exchange for avoiding a public trial. The door opened behind him and Nyala emerged, her turquoise skin glowing with the distinctive luminescence of late-stage Turquosian pregnancy. The medical scans had confirmed they were expecting a boy, a son with his father's human features and his mother's turquoise coloring, according to Dr. Duran's predictions. The nursery is finally ready, Nyala said, leaning against him. Though I still don't understand the human obsession with painting rooms blue for boys. Jake laughed, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Blame Earth traditions that somehow survived interstellar travel. It's charming, she admitted. Like so many human customs. Itaya joined them carrying a tray with 3 steaming mugs. Her own pregnancy was less visible, but equally celebrated. She had announced it just weeks after their victory against galactic unions. The girls are convinced both babies will arrive on the same day, she said, handing out the drinks. They've been making lists of names that would work for siblings born under the triple moon alignment. Speaking of names, Nyala said, I've been thinking about what we discussed. For the boy, Jake looked at her expectantly. Thomas, she said, after your grandfather. A human name for a child who will carry human strength and values. Jake felt a surge of emotion. He had mentioned his grandfather only once, a frontier doctor who had treated everyone regardless of species or ability to pay. That Nyala had remembered and chosen to honor that legacy touched him deeply. It's perfect, he said softly. As the 3 of them stood together watching the twins play in the golden light of Proxima's setting suns, Jake marveled at the journey that had brought them here. What had begun as a simple desire to escape loneliness had evolved into something far richer and more complex than he could have imagined. Their family defied conventional categories, human and alien, biological and chosen, yet felt more right, more natural than anything he had known before. The mail-order bride who had arrived to find him already married had indeed been chosen by his children. But in the end, she had been chosen by all of them, just as they had been chosen by her. I was thinking, Itaya said, breaking the comfortable silence, of perhaps we should send Dr. Duran a birth announcement for both babies. And Marshal Shelton, Nyala added. She visits sometimes, you know. Checks that we're doing well. Jake nodded, grateful for the humans who had stood with them when it mattered most. Family isn't always blood, he reminded them, echoing the words he'd shared months ago. Sometimes it's the people who stand by you when standing isn't easy. As if in agreement, the babies chose that moment to kick, first Nyala's, then Itaya's, as if already communicating with each other across the small space between their mothers. The future stretched before them, bright with possibility, and whatever challenges it might bring, Jake knew they would face them together. An unconventional family forged in unexpected circumstances, bound by something stronger than contracts or conventions. Love freely given and joyfully received.